So we all get asked in our industries at least once a week, is it a bubble and is it going to pop? And the thing that I always answer to that question is that we don't have a crystal ball. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be doing way better at all this and wouldn't even need to film videos like this. But the thing is that, like we've been talking about, loan quality is so good that I don't think that we're going to see a bottom fall out of the housing market and then people's home values just completely drop. So when people are asking me, is a bubble, is it going to pop? I don't think so. Because when I look at the data for Reno, I see a lot of people moving in here and it's a simple supply and demand issue. There's not going to be enough homes for all these people who are coming here. That spreads out to a lot of other questions and issues with Reno and infrastructure. But bottom line, I still think it's a good time to buy, and I still think that you're going to get a return on your investment if you do so.
Well, like you just said, and then what we've been talking about throughout the day is that you're not giving away loans.
Yeah.
The job growth is still here. I think even you hear if those big companies were to pull out, would we still be able to sustain? Yes, because there's a lot of small companies that we don't even hear about here that are very high-paying jobs, and people, once they get here, they realize what a wonderful community we are. How, yes, it is growing. Yes, traffic's getting a little bit longer. Instead of 15 minutes across town, it takes 25. Like, in the scheme of things, where most of these people are coming from, that's still a short commute all the way across town. We're close to the mountains. We've got a really mild climate. I think things are changing. We're always changing, and it's always going to change. But I also do think that it's just going to be a steady, hopefully we go back to a normalized market rather than this.
Yeah, and I think that it's just people who lived through the last one, they are scarred for life, The thing that people need to realize is like that type of event is a once in a lifetime event. Like
we don't.
No, I mean, it just in general, that type of collapse, complete, that was close to a depression. Like they call it the Great Recession, but that type of event doesn't occur. It'll occur once in your lifetime, and maybe not in anyone's lifetime in certain cases, depending on your time frame. But so people are looking for these types of like wild events, and it's a completely different market, like you said. When employment growth is not slowing down, when the unemployment rate has never been lower for Washoe County, like these things don't lend themselves to like a crash coming soon or right around the corner. So you'll see ebb and flow, I think, in the price appreciation just based on simple supply and demand. So like right now we have a little bit more supply, so people say the market's soft. There's nothing wrong with that, and that will just ebb and flow. So it'll be just like a normal market. But I think like people looking for these wild once in a lifetime crashes, I mean, you may never see it again in your lifetime like that. You might see a 10% decline over a period or a 5% decline, but over the long run, people don't lose in real estate. I think that if you take a long view, I mean, if you pick the worst spot to get in, you probably and you picked a bad spot to get out, you lost. But over the long haul, I think people always gain.
Over the long haul, real estate's about one few market that, it's fallen, but it's always come back, and it's not only come back, but it's come back better.
Yep.
So it's how does it sustain for it to keep coming, and it's the market correcting itself like it's doing right now.
Exactly, and those are healthy corrections.
It's all healthy. I mean, it's not that sellers necessarily like it right now. It's not that buyers actually like it a little bit better because it's more of a negotiator's market. Everybody's gonna have to give and take a little bit.
And nothing goes up in a straight line. I mean,
Right.
if you look at any stock that's gone up over 20 years, there's ebb and flow along the way. But the chart goes from left to right, up in the upward trajectory. And there's spots along the way where you could lose. But if you just held that investment, you'd be fine in the long term. And I think people it's easier to hold on to real estate and not get shook out on these little corrections. It's a lot more difficult to get shook out of real estate. It's a lot easier to get shook out of a stock portfolio or the wrong investment because you see your statement every month and you're like, oh shit, maybe I should sell this. I need to make a change. In real estate, you're able to hold on to the hard asset for the long haul. And then I think that helps people. Like we've just seen clients who would have never had a chance of gaining, $100,000 or $200,000. And you see them buy 2-3 years ago and now they're sitting on 6 figures of equity. They would have never made that in stocks or other investment classes. So I think it's the positives far outweigh the negatives at this point.
I think we've reached, I talk about this often, I think we've reached a price plateau. That's what I like to say. I think we've reached the point in this town to where the jobs, they can afford a $350,000 house. They just can't afford a $400,000 or $450,000 house. So I think, and I think the income is rising, but I just don't think it's risen enough to go to that next level. And builders are always going to push the price. So they're always going to push. That's what builders do. I mean, they're in business to make money, and if they're going to push the price to a point to where they see a plateau, in my opinion. And then that plateau, they have to go, at this point, okay, now what do we want to do? Do we want to make a little correction and get it back down, or do we want to just kind of hold steady? And I think right now, we're seeing a little bit of a price reduction, a little bit.
The incentives.
The incentives, the little things like that'll draw those people back in. But I think until people realize that maybe this is the floor, then they'll feel more comfortable about getting back in. Now I'm not in the production home business anymore, and I work a lot more on the custom side. But my clients and customers, they're just worried about subcontractor costs. That's what they're worried about. They're worried about how much that framer charged last month compared to how much he's going to charge this month. And it used to be going like this. Now it's more like this. So we're not seeing a huge increase in costs when it comes to that. There's still a little bit. Commodities go up and down. Drywall and stuff like that are always going up and down. But that's what I see. I think we've reached a plateau, and I just think it's going to take for people to go, oh wait a minute, the floor's not falling out here. I still have $300,000-$400,000 in equity in my house. People are always wanting to move around. I think they'll jump back in. You know what I mean, and keep moving around. And then the people from California that are coming here, when you can sell a house in the Bay Area, 1,500 square foot house for $1.2 million, that's not changing. I don't see that changing.
That migration is not slowing down,
No.
by the way. So that the California tax situation is getting worse.
Yep.
It doesn't change. It just gets worse. We have clients tell us all the time, like, they reached the breaking point. Like the last tax increase when they raised, the state income tax by 2 or 3% to pay for some new measures that got passed by the voters. Then all of a sudden they're like, that was it. I was already paying 40% of my income in tax. Now it's gotten too much. I got to get out, and they relocate here.
Well, there's always going to be a correlation between rate, price, cost, and that's where your external functions of the market with tariffs, cost of goods, everything else is going to affect price. But the thing that we also need to keep in mind is the reality of if you did buy 5 to 6 to 7 years ago and you're sitting on a ton of equity, that you're lucky because you can use that, you can move up. Where before, when the market crashed, you just thought you were stuck and weren't going to be able to buy again.
Exactly.
And 5 or 6 years ago, I was saying this back then. I'm like, you can't replace that house for that, even at 5 or 6 years ago.
That's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You once in a lifetime, and those people, God bless them. They got, they did the right thing back then. They got in the market at the right time. They bought it at the right time. If they held on to it, they're probably sitting on a very nice nest egg of retirement. But I don't see those people flipping. I don't see them changing that. They're not doing it. They're staying more put. And what
we're seeing is those people too, like in my generation, they bought and then they want to move up to the next price point, but their house is worth that much, so they can't find anything, so they're stuck.
Right.
So, and that's the circle of where we're stuck. And so, like you said, maybe as they get more in savings and feel comfortable and realize we're not at the bottom, then maybe they'll finally find that next price point. But what is that? Because their house is worth their move up home.
Right.
But you're saying, is there a bubble? I think the buyer itself explains it great. When a lot of my last deals throughout this last year have all been in cash.
Yeah.
So if that much cash is going into individual residential real estate, a lot because of what happened over the last 10 years before this, and now they just want that solid, they want to know that that's their house. How is it a bubble when all their cash is tied in this house? It's a hard question to answer. For me at least, it's like, well, they're going to put all that investment in here and they're going to live off of the rest of this however they do.
Yeah.
And they don't want debt. Sorry for you and you. And a lot of times the appraiser, it's like I haven't talked to him in a long time, even though I used to, because so many of my deals have been in cash.
But it's good for the market as a whole.
Absolutely.
So it is good for us in other senses because it's going to be the security blanket underneath. And now Megan and I, to go off of what she was saying, but we can't do more loans the way it was done in the end where they just took away the requirements. So now when we have clients that want to move up to their bigger home, we have to be better at our jobs. Like we have to get creative and like look at their overall expenses and make it so they can afford this, so they can get into the bigger house with their overall bills staying pretty much the same. And because we have to do our jobs in that manner, that's also going to keep the market safe and make sure that we don't head to a dangerous spot again. Regardless of how it feels to everyone else outside the industry, it's not their job to be experts on this, it's our job.
Yeah.
And I think people like rely on their intuition. Like if you've always grown up in Reno, you think of it as a small town. I look at the numbers now and it's like there's almost 500,000 people in Washoe County. I didn't know that. I thought it was like 300,000. I mean, where did like an extra 100,000 of people come up, all of a sudden? So it's just
hit 395 at about 5 o'clock. You'll figure it out real fast.
Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden, these numbers, and then we'll see people, and like you said, how do these people afford these big, expensive homes? Like we just see 2-income households where both husband and wife are making 6 figures at a great stable employer. And you just don't think of like those type of jobs, but they're all out there. I mean, they can't find enough skilled people to take the jobs.
Yeah.
Like there's so much jobs available. If somebody says they can't find a job, I think like something's
They're
wrong
not
with you.
listening, yeah.
Like you're literally, you lost at that point. Because there's so much abundance in employment and opportunity right now, it's crazy.
Yeah, I have a few friends that are in staffing businesses and they can't keep up and they're just walk in our door and we can find
People
them a
are
job.
putting billboards up to find labor or to find people in all job sectors. When we put job ads out, the focus has shifted from like getting quality applicants to now making the application easier because we want to encourage people to apply. That's how lazy people are apparently. Like they won't even fill out the application. So now it's saying you can click here, one click application. So you
even up in Tahoe at the new Whole Foods they're putting in on the side of the chain link fence. Need framers, need concrete, handwritten.
Yeah.
That's how desperate they are for these. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think overall the discussion has been that there's still lots of cash in the market. Unemployment rate is low. We're seeing interest rates kind of flatten out. There's none of that little unstableness that we felt kind of at the end of last year or the end of this year. And I think overall the opinion, if I'm hearing everyone correctly, is that it's just going to kind of stable out, hopefully.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a good place to be, and I think if you're, looking to buy, it's probably not a bad time to jump in. I think people are waiting for that, and then as soon as they realize here in the next 6 months, 8 months, after it's probably been software for the last 4 months at least.
Yeah, exactly.
So they realize, prices haven't crashed. Actually, they've ticked up maybe 1%, 2%, something like that, maybe. Maybe they just stabilized. You know what? We got to move. I can't wait any longer. And then, and then hopefully we can get back to that 3%, growth, more stable growth. And I think that's healthy for everybody. But I don't. From my side, the cost of subcontractors and stuff it's not going down. So I can see it stabilizing. I don't see it going like this, and that's
I agree.